Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. My name is Sergey, and I was totally born in the USSR. Some of my viewers prefer to call me John Wayne Cheeseburger. And sure, you can call me that, or if you're a pretty young lady, you can call me anytime. So today we're going to take a look at quite interesting document from the Soviet era, so-called Трудовая книжка, which you can translate as the labor book or workbook, and in German they used to be called Arbeitbuch. This document belongs to my distant relative Nila, who grew up in that village where my grandparents were from in the northern Ukraine, and she never moved. She always lived and worked there. I also have a somewhat similar workbook of my mother that she actually gave it to me. But we're going to take a look at it in a separate video. Right now we're going to talk about this particular Трудовая книжка for the village workers. So what is workbook? What is Трудовая книжка? It's actually your official record of your work history through all your life. So it's somewhat similar to resume here in America. The difference is that in America, you write resume. In Soviet Russia, resume writes you. So here we're looking at the cover, and it says Трудова книжка колгоспника. So this is actually in Ukrainian language. So Трудова книжка, workbook, колгоспника, collective farm worker. So it's already kind of interesting that it's not like it's not a workbook that covers all professions. This is specifically for collective farm workers. So that's already kind of quite interesting detail. And now it's time for a short lesson of the Russian language. Kolkhoz. Kolkhoz. So this word is actually, it's a combination of two words. Kol is коллективное and hoz хозяйство. Коллективное хозяйство is a collective farm. So kolkhoz is collective farm, like coal farm. Kolkhoznik. Kolkhoznik. So that's a worker in a collective farm, or kolkhoznica if it's female. Okay, so we open the book and it says that this book was issued for Nila, my relative. She was born in 1937. An actual workbook was issued to her in October of 1966. So she was already 29-year-old. The name of the collective farm, Kolgosp, was Avangard, and it was located in the village of Zhovid in Chernigov region, northern Ukraine. So if you think about it, if Nila was born in 1937, it means she was 4-year-old little tiny girl when World War II started. Well, for the Soviet Union, war started in 1941 officially, and she was only 8 in 1945 when war was over. So she got lucky that she managed to survive in those tough years. Alright, so now the interesting part. So we're looking at her work record, and it seems that she started working at a collective farm in 1951. So she was basically a 14-year-old, and when I was asking her a question about her history, she said, unfortunately, I didn't keep the record. My parents didn't keep the record of my work. So that's what it says in the graph number 4 and 5. Нет данных, no data. So she worked, but it was never recorded. So she completely missed 1951, 52, looks like 54, and 56. Although she worked, they didn't keep the records because remember, this book was issued in 1966. But first of all, I would like to take a look with you guys at the official part. So what each graph is asking, and then we'll talk about her personal record. So graph number 1, data запису, рік, місяць, число. So that's the date when the record was made. So for example, you worked in 1951, but they may make the record next year. So as you see, they missed completely since there was no record or hardly any record. So first graph is when the recording was done. Second graph, за який рік даються відомості. So that's what year the data will be provided. The third graph is Kim працював, so what position were you at, what did you do, what kind of work you did. And she pretty much all her life she was доярка, so she was the lady that was milking cows. Доить коров, it's to milk cows, so that's pretty much all her life she was yanking cows udder. Graph number 4, and now this is what it's getting very, very interesting. This is what's gonna make my video very long and maybe boring. This says нараховано трудоднів за рік. So this is how many labor days was performed in a year. It's actually нараховано is like how many was calculated. It's interesting. It's calculated labor days. So we got this new interesting socialist term, Labor Day. And you can probably figure out there's something really fishy about this Labor Day, трудодень, because if you look down at graph number 4, so there's no data, then 30, no data. Then look at that number in 1955, 771. It's not possible. There's only 365 days in a year, but she worked 771 labor days, so something doesn't make sense. Once again, 1957, 630 labor days. 58, 694. 59, 631. 1960, 582. Then it dropped down to 108, 228, and 434. So there's something going on because there's no way you can work 771 days in one single year, right? I actually had to look it up myself because I never was kind of questioning this whole concept of a Labor Day. So apparently, Labor Day was different from actual work day. It depended what kind of job you did. So for example, if you work as a guard, so you just go somewhere and you sleep at night with the rifle, protecting collective farm, it's considered an easy job. So it's half of their day. So if you work one day, it's counted like a half of the Labor Day. Then if you did something more advanced jobs, then it could be double or triple or even quadruple. So it seems to me if you worked as the доярка, as the milk lady, for every day you worked, it was times 2.5. So for every day you worked as a milk lady, you will get 2.5 labor days. It's really bizarre. Graph number 5 is as amazing as graph number 4. So that says the quantity of worked, and this is the word, людиноднів. So the quantity of human days in a year. So we had labor days and human days. So if you worked all day, you get in one human day, but then based on what you did, you can get 2 labor days out of it or half labor day. So as I said, easy jobs, even like they considered babysitter is an easy job. So if you worked at the collective farm kindergarten, you were getting half of the labor day for every human day. But here, as you see, she didn't get any data on the graph number 5. And if you thought it's already pretty crazy that they track in your workbook your human days you worked, labor days based on the human days, it's getting even crazier in graph number 6. Because there it says встановлений мінімум трудоднів або людоднів за рік. Established minimum amount of labor days or human days in a year. So they actually had a required amount of days you must work for collective farm in labor days or human days. There was a minimum that you had to work at least so many days. There's no data here, but we'll see later there's actually a specific amount. Then graph number 7 is how much money, and it says ruble skarbovancy. On Ukrainian language, ruble is skarbovanets. So how much money you got for a year. So that's graph number 7. And graphs 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, it's kind of similar thing. On the top it says calculated for a year, but if graph number 7 it says money, others is called like natura in kilograms. So it's actually goods in kilograms. So collective farm will pay for your work with goods, and it will be measured in kilograms. And we'll look at the next page. It will explain what they're talking about here. But as you see, there's no record that she got paid anything for all her work. And the last two graphs, 14 and 13, signatures of the collective farm main guy, Holova Kolhospu, and also an accountant. There'll be two signatures and an ink stamp. So it's all very official. But before we move any further, let's summarize what we learned so far about life of the regular collective farm worker in the Soviet Union. Number 1, so it appears as every collective farm worker had a required amount of days that he had to work for his collective farm. Number 2, it also appears that every day that he worked or she worked at the collective farm was tracked, and it was called a human day. In Ukrainian they say Ludino day. So I guess there was quite a robust system of tracking everyday work of any collective farm worker. And we had this expression in the Soviet Union, работать за палочку или работать за галочку, to work for the check mark. So that explains you were required to work specific amount of days, and it was tracked. So you show up and they make a check mark, or just to put one, look like a stick, работать за палочку. Палочка means a stick. So they track your work, but they don't pay you really, so you just work for that check mark. And finally, number 3, there was this interesting formula recalculating your human work days into work days. So you may work a day, but it doesn't transfer as the labor day, maybe half of the labor day or 3/4 of the labor day. So we had also that going here. Okay, so we're gonna stop here and call it a work day. So in my next video, we will look into details for the next pages that full of interesting information about required amount of days and what kind of payment my relative Nila was getting. And it's would be preferable if you guys watch that on the computer screen, not on your phone, because it's a pretty small numbers to see on the tiny screen. Well, comrades, I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something new. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you soon. До свидания. Goodbye. Hey, by the way, cool merch for cool comrades is available at the Ushanka store at teespring.com. Just a friendly reminder that my book American Diaries is available on amazon.com, or shoot me an email if you would like to have a signed copy. Thank you. And if you love my channel and would like to show your support, please click on the link below this video and become the patron of the Ushanka Show. For as little as $1, you can help us grow and create the new, interesting videos about the life in Soviet